Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode number 8 of the Weather Confessions podcast. I am meteorologist Cody Barnhart, joined with meteorologist Matthew Euler in association with Spot On Weather LLC. Certainly some wonderful work down there. Matt and I are beyond uber excited for this one because I'll tell you what, Matt, we're waiting for winter, we're waiting for fall. This one's got a little extra spice to it, if you know what I mean.
Oh my goodness, does it ever? I mean,
Right.
we've been like I don't know, like salivating, I guess, over this one coming up.
Easily.
Yeah. There's so much. It's a nice turn from the heat discussions we've been having lately. You know, getting away from those hotter weather discussions and thinking of cool thoughts here on tonight's podcast.
You know, we've had all these discussions about drought and fire and ag and like the late spring frost freeze issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done anything to really cool anybody down. I know it's July. I know it's almost early August. You know, it'll be officially August when we start pushing this out here when this is released. But we need something that's a little bit less boring as far as the summer goes for these non-summer people. And I think we figured out exactly what we're talking about here, at least for tonight.
Oh, absolutely. With this, I think everybody out there who really enjoys, looking at winter weather, I think you'll enjoy this break from that hot weather and the humidity and the dew points being higher and those daily thunderstorms. And you get to really enjoy this one tonight.
You know, I think you already kind of like let the cat out of the bag, per se. We're talking about winter for tonight. But you can't talk about winter if you don't start with the classic Snoopy. I mean, come on. It's Peanuts. It's the old Charles Schultz. It's just the iconic look. Welcome to winter. And I don't know about anybody else, but for both of us, we are ready to say that officially in about 5 months, I think, at this point. Maybe 4 months, hopefully, if we're lucky.
Yeah, you definitely got to throw some Peanuts in there. You always think about the ice rink with Peanuts and the characters. And, of course, you get like the characters, Lucy, Linus, and, like just sticking their tongue out trying to catch snowflakes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. We got Snoopy here just kind of hanging out here. The Red Baron himself hanging out on his on his house.
I mean, what else can you get besides having some snow, some Snoopy, and just, you're ready to go. You're ready to get rid of summer. It won't be long. We talked about at the end of the last episode that the kids are back in school and summer vacations are winding down. It's hard to believe it, but it's true. So at some point, we have to fast forward this thing here, put it in first gear, and at least mention winter or fall, something besides summer, right? Why not?
Yeah, we got to mix things up here. I agree 100%. So let's get right into it here and take a look at these sea surface temperature anomalies here.
That's right. I'll tell you, we keep talking this year. Everybody's talking about the El Nino. We're all talking about the super El Nino. The numbers are already rivaling 1997 and, of course, 2015, 2 comp years that we're looking at, but 97 as well. I think it may have already surpassed what the comp is with that. This is a record territory, what most likely will be here for El Nino. But, we go back to the 2010 winter. Again, you're talking 15, 16 years ago now, which is hard to believe. I feel like I have a couple more gray hair all of a sudden growing out after I said that for a second. 15 years. I mean, I was a freshman in high school. This should be illegal. It cannot be this long ago.
Yeah, you were a freshman in high school and had a little bit more hair on top of my head at the time, too.
It's funny how the weather just kills our genetics. It's like, it's just out there. But, the same thing we had back then, right? 09 and 10, we had a very strong El Nino that year. The difference with that being is what we call a Modoki-based El Nino, and a central-based there across the equatorial Pacific. So west of the South American area and across the Pacific Ocean, you see some more of that oranges and the reds there. And that's really what we look at. When we start talking about El Nino, La Nina, etc., one of the big things are the sea surface temperature anomalies, or how much warmer or cooler than average are those ocean temperatures. And that's exactly what you have there. Western parts of, again, central and western parts of the Pacific. But really, you look there west of the Central America region, west of South America, and you see the oranges and the reds. And Matt, that's exactly where we're looking but it's the fact that it's more that central base, that middle base, that's key because that drives the jet stream over the Pacific. It drives where the moisture can flow across the southern tier in winter. There's a lot of moving pieces associated with what part of the Pacific Ocean is very warm during that winter.
Yes, and there is a known relationship from research between this Modoki, or when we say Modoki or central base, what we're saying is the warmest water temperatures are going to be out towards that central Pacific area there. And there's a known, it's more of a snowier pattern across colder and more stormy across the southeastern U.S. when we get more of the Modoki central based El Nino, as compared, let's say, to the warmest temperatures being right off the immediate coast of South America with an east-based El Nino. So where the air rises and what happens in the tropics, typically with the warmer waters, you get air that's going to rise up and form clouds and rain. And where that air rises in those areas across the tropical Pacific really matter to our weather here in the United States, believe it or not, in the winter season.
There's a couple pieces. There's a few pieces here that are big contributing factors. And the other one, we talk quite a bit about it during the winter and during the fall season. We don't talk a lot about it here in the springtime and really the summer season, but the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, there's a lot of colors and a lot of moving blobs on these two maps. And these are two maps specifically that we want to hone in on, again, for that winter of 09 and 10. And there's 8 different phases. So think about a pie. Most of us, if you want to be a little bit hungrier for this episode, think about slicing a pie into different pieces, cheesecake, whatever it may be. This situation has 8 different possible options, 8 different phases, if you will, 1 through 8. And depending on the time of year, depends on what the impacts may be for us here living on the East Coast. If you want the cold and snow, you want something in that 7, 8, 1, and we can say phase 2. It still can get the job done, certainly. When you start talking 3, 4, 5, 6, that's where typically it's a little bit drier, but it's at least very much warmer during the winter months. And looking on the left side here again, these are phase 8. So what we're looking at here more so than anything at this point is you're looking for some of the different colors because each color is associated with a month. And you see a lot of that time frame here. You were in that 7 to 8, 1, and 2. There's still some times where you start to work out a 3, 4, and then you kind of skip most of 5. You kind of skip most of 6 briefly, and then you work your way back. So you're spending a lot of time in that favorable pattern where the cold, the troughing of the jet stream, the snow, and the ice, that hangs over at least for December into the eastern parts of the U.S. But when you slide over to the right side of the map here, and we're talking February, the back end of winter, it's the same idea. A lot of time they're in 7, 8, and then you kind of go into this little null circle, and really the impacts don't change a whole lot when you're kind of meandering in this circle until you really come out onto the other side. And eventually, once you come out into 2 and 3, again, you can still make the job work in 2 and phase 3. It's that 4, 5, 6 that starts to really warm up late winter going into the spring. And Matt, we certainly max out every opportunity during the 09-10 winter. And this is just another piece of why. It was in that those favorable phases, if you will, as we were going throughout that winter for the majority of that season.
Yeah, and think of it like this. So you've definitely hit it on the phase 8, being more favorable for cold and more of the East Coast storms and wetter than normal precipitation. But when we talk about phase 8, where is the air rising or being enhanced to rise even greater? It's over that central tropical Pacific water. It matches up well with the El Nino map we showed previously, where you had your warmest, deepest oranges over the central Pacific with the Modoki El Nino. So We're getting like 2 forces kind of coming together here, the MJO and El Nino in the same winter, which you don't always get. Sometimes these things work against each other. So, yeah.
Well, and sometimes the other thing too is sometimes you get pieces of each one that work together. Yeah. And again, going back to the pie analogy, because that's an easy way to kind of break this down. You've got different phases. You can kind of get crumbs, but at the end of the day, the crumbs are not a meal. The pieces that we need to drive the pattern, if you want snow, if you want cold, if you want, hopefully nobody wants ice, but you want those winter systems, the pieces you need to drive that, to get a little here, a little there, and whatnot, it's not enough. You need all of it together or it just doesn't work. That's why winter weather forecasting, seasonal forecasting, they're both so tricky. The intangibles that go into it, the stats, the analogs, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Just a few examples here of why that's so difficult to work with.
Yeah, and I mean, I can give you an example even beyond 09-10 winter where, like you said, the warm phases are over there in 4, 5, and 6 on the right side of this diagram. And when the MJO was over there, the 2019-2020 winter was unusually warm, and we were on that side of the diagram pretty much all winter long. So the stars were aligning for this winter to really be a big one as far as cold, as far as snowstorms for the East.
I think many people probably remember that winter very well. And there's one more piece that we want to touch on here. And maybe you call it two, but kind of an A and a B, if you will. In addition to some of these pieces, we just said there's so many things going back and forth that drive the weather pattern altogether. We have two more. There's a number of them out there, but we're just going to talk about these two here for the purpose of this episode, if you will. But on the left side here, really what you want to focus on is what we call the Arctic Oscillation, the AO. Really want to focus on the blue and how far it goes down on this chart. And notice on the right side of the chart, on the right side of the left chart, put it that way, you see that it goes almost all the way to the bottom in that blue color. And that is a very, very strong, and you mentioned to me, Matt, before we came on here, that is a record low AO value. So a record low Arctic Oscillation value. When numbers are that low and they are that record breaking low, typically what you will get is a bigger trough with more cold air with the jet stream set up and parking itself into the eastern side of the US, which again is exactly what happened. On the flip side of things, we've got this right graphic here, and you can see the winter of 09 and 10 as well. And this is another thing called the NAO. This is the North Atlantic Oscillation. And you also, with this, want it to be negative. You want both of these to be negative. You want that cold and snow in the east. Well, look at where the NAO was. Also was negative, but compared to 15-16, and Matt, you pointed this out, where it takes several pieces to fall into place, 15-16, again, is on the positive side and quite a bit. So, again, you're looking at a number of variables, a number of items that really do need to align together, because getting one here, getting one there, it just doesn't get the job done. It's close, but no cigar. Not going to work.
Yeah, I would say with this, just think about this. With El Nino, you're typically getting this subtropical jet stream,
right?
Which is going to bring tons of moisture in to the southeastern U.S. You get some storms to form in the northern Gulf. And they kind of go up off the southeast mid-Atlantic coast. So you've got the moisture there. It's in place. And now you throw this deeply negative AO in there, and you got the combination of very cold air plus the moisture. And, and in cities that normally may get rain, suddenly they're looking at accumulating snow.
Yeah, and when you talk about southern cities, right, we talk about states like Texas, Georgia, the Carolinas, anybody in between, Tennessee as well. Some of these areas have a little bit of that Appalachia region where, sure, they get some snow, they get some ice. They know how to deal with a little bit of it, climatologically speaking. But this was a winter that many areas that don't see like true snowstorms got a whole lot of snow. And you don't have the money, you don't have the budget, you don't have the resources, and you don't have the warning systems, or at least at that time, of course, as technology was evolving a little bit, but you didn't have what we have today in the sense of everybody has a cell phone. So your EAS alerts go off, this goes off, everyone's texting each other left. Like, you didn't have all of those. And we have a lot of cities here to kind of talk about tonight that illustrate that exact point. The other side of that, though, is you have that extreme cold. And we saw it how many years ago with Texas, right? The power grid shut off.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people lost their lives. And 09 and 10, in a lot of areas, same idea.
Yeah. I mean, again, the combination of, when you see the blue colors, it's below normal, really frigid back towards Montana, and the purple colors there down in the Dakotas, Nebraska. But the whole United States, green, purples, blues, doesn't matter. That pretty much says the whole United States is running below normal for the average temperature in that December. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing the green shading, which indicates above normal precip. And honestly, from like Louisiana there, the Gulf Coast, right up to the mid-Atlantic, up to Jersey, you literally see that green footprint, which it pretty much outlines the coastal storms, how they started in the Gulf and they worked their way up off the southeast coast and up off the mid-Atlantic, you clearly can see that stripe of above normal precip there in that area. So it was just, again, perfect combination here. Cold, but not too cold either, because if it gets too cold, then you get really dry air, which kind of suppresses storm tracks further south and out to sea as well. So you want just the right perfect combination of cold plus the moisture, and we got that here in December of 2009.
We're going to have some photos later on that illustrate a couple of cities and kind of show how, what's the word I'm looking for, how important each of those ingredients are together. Because like you said, if it's too much dry air and cold air, or it's too much moisture and it's just a little bit warm, you're not going to have those snowstorms that everybody wants to see. And at that point, snow days for the kids and whatnot. So that was December. We're going to come back to December here in a little while. Let's move on to January, right? Middle of winter, everybody should be frozen over. It's a tundra no matter where you look. And that verified as the calendar flipped into 2010. Again, the idea of anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 degrees below average in the blues and the greens, the northern plains, the Midwest, the South, the East Coast. Ironically here, notice the warmer or above average areas in the orange and red across Maine and upstate New York, northern New England, the northern plains and northern lakes, and in the Pacific Northwest, a very, very warm compared to average month of January of 2010. But also notice the East Coast again, still some light greens and some whites in there. So you're at least average to just above average as far as precip is concerned. They're really below average in the dark browns there across Michigan and Indy and Ohio and the Midwest there. And then that stripe back across the Intermountain West, the Rockies, and the Central Plains kind of tell you where high pressure probably set up, because it was very, very cold in some of these areas, but it was also bone dry. And that drove the storm track off to the south and east, which again, you saw it on the last slide with December, a southeast storm track, all of the greens in there. Same idea, the Midwest, very high, strong pressure and dry, sinking air. That means snow, probably not as likely or not as much precip-wise. And that drives your storm track once again to the southeast over the same areas, just not quite as much as December.
Yeah, and with that map too, what really sticks out to me on the precipitation departures from normal is California really got in on the act there too. Southern California, Southern Arizona into Texas, and that's typical for El Nino winters. You're going to get that storm track from Southern California running along to Texas and the Gulf Coast. So I'm not shocked by that, the way it looks right there.
No, not at all. That's really a textbook example of a very strong El Nino. So really no surprises. And then it should move on to February, right? We have one more meteorological month to go as far as February of 2010. Kind of the same idea, but the core of the cold, the core of the true cold shifts. There's still a stripe there across the Dakotas and eastern Nebraska and Iowa, but look at the cornbread, the what do they call it? The corn basket area. Yeah. And right there across the Midwest, the South, Florida, Texas, everybody, all the way through the Mid-Atlantic to PA and New York State and Long Island. I mean, you're talking easily 10 to 20 plus degrees below average for the month of February. And let's think about this for a second, because we're talking about 10 to 20 degrees below average. Temperatures are already bottoming out for January into February before they quickly come up in the spring with the sun angle. So take the coldest time of year and subtract for the month another 10 or 15 degrees. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're averaging for the month. So a lot of cold, again, more dry air, more below average precipitation there in the browns across the Midwest and parts of the South. But again, toward the eastern seaboard, North Carolina, eastern Virginia, into the Mid-Atlantic and PA, and now it's creeping up into the Lehigh Valley in New Jersey, parts of the Hudson Valley, Albany as well, the Hudson River, and parts of central and southern New England. You start to see some more green in there. And again, as long as you've got cold air and it's cold enough and you have just enough moisture, you have a shot at winter storms. And again, Texas, the Panhandles, parts of New Mexico, and even parts of the Four Corners, still well above average precip-wise as this El Nino continues here, again, February of 2010. But Matt, you're going to go back to Christmas Eve, what we mentioned a few minutes ago here with the December, right? Let's rewind a second to Christmas Eve here. Mm-hmm. And, first of all, this is what we all want. Everybody wants to wake up on Christmas morning and see a couple inches of snow.
That's
It's
right.
nostalgic. It's beautiful. It just looks pretty. We opened the show with Snoopy. I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
It's the landscape transform. It just transforms the landscape. Like you just,
Right.
I don't know. You can't. I mean, it's hard to describe. Like there's no other type of
There's
thing
no
that you
feeling.
see.
Nothing
No,
compares to it.
no. And the kids must have been just jumping up and down here with this image here you're showing of
Yeah.
Texas and all the snow there sitting across the Panhandle, anywhere from Lubbock up towards Amarillo and over even in Oklahoma there to the upper right portion of this image. This is the snow footprint here shown by some of the satellite imagery, the visible imagery, really showing that nicely here on this graphic. And the places like this just don't get it very often, you know. I mean, they can get it in the winter. I mean, it's not totally out of the realm of possibility, but I mean, like you said, just matching it perfectly with the Christmas, having a white Christmas down there. I mean, the probabilities are so low. This is great.
It's amazing, you know. So the blizzard of 2009, December of 2009, the blizzard hit most of the southern parts of the plains, Texas, eastern New Mexico, Oklahoma, etc., coming across parts of the southeast. But none of these are clouds, guys. This is raw snowpack the next morning. This is Christmas morning of 2009. And, you know, when you get a fresh snowpack on the ground, nice sunny morning the next morning, chances are, if it's really, really thick, you're not going to see some of the browns on there. You're going to see a solid sheet of white. There's not going to be any little bits of fields left over or some terrain. It's a solid sheet of white. You see on there a couple of spots where it's not as thick, where it's a little bit lighter snowpack. But there's a lot on there, Matt, that there's not a lot of brown for the terrain for this base map. That's some pretty thick snow. That's 4 to 8 inches, 3 to 6, 4 to 8, something like that for these Texans on Christmas morning in 2009. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of joyous children there waking up Christmas morning and, you know, try to improvise maybe. I don't know necessarily if they sold any like sleighs or sleds down there.
Right.
Sleds or tubes, but they probably were improvising and trying their best to get out there, you know, throw snowballs at each other and have fun in the snow on this morning.
You know, I can see it perfectly now. We're talking about Texas, so we have to understand the culture. It's Christmas morning. You got a 6 or 7 inches of snow. Probably a good time for a shotgun and a beer. Celebrate the holiday. Celebrate the snowstorm. You're good to go.
There you go.
It just fits the Texas culture. It's absolutely perfect. But it's not the only example that we have. Yeah. And following that system, again, December 18th to 21st, this was the massive blizzard again across the mid-Atlantic as well. So this was a few days prior, but this is again in a separate part of the country. So to show the idea of how much of the country just into December, right, not across the true northern tier, is already seeing snow at this time and large storms. I mean, the light blue color there, you're talking about double-digit snowfall and 2 feet plus, 2 to 3 feet in the dark blue. I mean, absolutely incredible across the Allegheny Front in West Virginia, parts of the Shenandoah Valley and the Blue Ridge, even up towards, say, Hagerstown and the Catoctin Mountains. Regardless, 10 to 20 inches plus. I mean, look at the white. You're talking 4 or 5 inches on the low end. That is a massive storm all the way into parts of New England. And Matt, you have personal experience with that. I don't know if we have time for the entire story, but you drove through this storm, literally going almost cross country or halfway across country.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just you know, we left Southeast Virginia. It was just a cold rain, and as we got towards Williamsburg, it started to mix with rain, snow. Get west of Williamsburg on Interstate 64, I went to all snow, and I would say probably estimate from just seeing it probably 2 to 3, at times up to 4 inches of snow rates per hour. You know, driving on the interstate, it's covered like this country road. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. And thankfully, we're able to get a spot to stay. It took about 8 hours to basically drive from Southeast Virginia over to Stanton, which is just normally probably about, I don't know, maybe like a 3 to 3.5 hour drive, somewhere in there. And it took 8 hours just to get there. And we're so lucky and fortunate we got a hotel, one of the last rooms at the hotel there in Stanton.
Right.
We couldn't even pull into the hotel parking lot at all because the snow was so much. And there's a couple of guys, like we have 3 guys from Quebec that offered to help us.
Out of all places, you're thinking, oh, just bring in the Canadians. It's fine. This is a daily thing for them.
Yeah, they stopped at the same hotel. We were lucky they were there because we kind of like were spinning the tire there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, here, let me help you. And like, it was just like, that's the one good thing about snowstorms too, is they really bring people together
Oh, absolutely.
in a way that you just don't normally see with other types of weather events, like especially with like heavy rains and flooding. Yeah, you can get some assistance for sure, but snowstorms just like bring that like humanity really out nicely to help out. But yeah, it was one heck of a storm. I tell you, I haven't seen that much before. Estimate probably about 18, 19 inches at the hotel.
Well, the other thing you said too is you guys got to the hotel and all of a sudden there's free pizza.
That's right.
Not a bad thing when you're stuck in a blizzard.
No, I mean, they're like the owner was just so hospitable. Like he had like the frozen pizzas, that you would make and he offered it to all the patrons of the hotel that night because he knew none of us were getting out to get dinner at all. I mean, we were just thankful to get in somewhere warm and get a bed for the night.
You're just trying to get off the road. And then you guys, of course, the next day after this, once you finally got out of the parking lot, which took you another several hours, you had to drive through the West Virginia Turnpike. And again, judging by the map, look where the heaviest snow was in that dark blue, the West Virginia Turnpike.
No, I'm so grateful that we didn't even make it that far that day. Honestly, like it's incredible. Like there's just no way we would have made it through that. We would have been stuck on, off the side of the road for who knows how long. And
right.
It's very scary, like in that type of situation when it snows that heavily. But the next day, we were at a standstill again because there was an accident ahead of us on the interstate because they were still, you can imagine the crews were still trying to get caught up and clearing those interstates.
It's certainly not an overnight project, and it takes a lot of people to get these types of storms cleared. In addition to that, we talk about a lot of people also receiving that same impact. Look at the same storm. These are numbers directly from the Weather Service here from Southeast New England. And I mean, look at the pictures alone from parts of Cape Cod. That's from the Cape Cod Times on the right. Yeah. I mean, northeast winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour for blizzard conditions. Some of the roads, again, were read as impassable. Yet little to no snow fell over the Berkshires to the west toward the New York State area, and even up toward the Green and White Mountains in northern New England. They didn't have any snow out of the storm. And you see such a sharp cutoff line on the backside. You could drive 30 or 40 miles and go from 8 to 10 inches down to a coating to 2. I mean, it's really such a fine line sometimes with these massive systems, but you look where the snow did dump from the Cape and eastern Mass, all of Rhode Island, southern and eastern Connecticut, and Long Island, and you're talking 8 to 12, 10 to 15 inches, up to 18 inches. There's, again, even for New England, right before Christmas, this is all still December, another major impact event for a highly populated area.
Yes, exactly. And one of the biggest things I've observed over time is these coastal storm tracks. Like where does that storm really track means everything as far as what you were mentioning with that cutoff line where you get next to nothing,
right?
Versus like just this huge jackpot total of snow. A lot of the bigger coastal storms have this footprint where it's like just huge amounts on the coast, and like you said, drive further inland, like 50, 100 miles to the northwest, and it's like they don't get anything really as much.
And people, and again, that's a communication thing. Is what that comes down to. Is it's how do you communicate where that might set up for plow crews to prep, for people to be ready to go, and for power companies, because storms of these nature, of that magnitude, trees are coming down, especially that heavy wet snow. Power lines are coming down, limbs are coming down. There's a lot of problems. Fire, EMS, we can go down the line, but it's a big communication tool. This is also an issue. It's hard to see. I am very familiar because, myself and Pittsburgh have spent a lot of quality time together over the years, might we say. And, but if you're familiar, right, with the city of Pittsburgh, all of the yellow bridges. I think we all know about that going over the river. This is one of them and you can see the two people out there walking in the middle of this massive storm. Again, Pittsburgh, not anywhere close to the coast, nowhere near a southern track. So another example of another state and a massively wide-ranging impact storm. This is from WPXI, which is one of the best TV stations in Pittsburgh as well. And to this day, they're still doing phenomenal work. But you look at the amount of snow on these trees, on the sides of the photos, that it's just clinging literally to anything. So it tells you there was some weight. Some of these branches are sagging. I mean, easily, 8 to 12 inches, another foot of snow here. And again, these are the bridges that go over the river. So if you ever see a baseball game, you're looking for a Pirates game, PNC Park, in a couple of months, it's going to be football season. So, with Heinz Field and Acrisure, you're looking at the bridges going across the river, watching Sunday Night Football. This is one of those bridges, guys, that was absolutely buried. And unless you had snowshoes like me, these people probably did, or some really good boots, you weren't getting any of them.
Yeah, this almost seems like a great day for those cross-country skis if you're going to need that to get around. That foreground, like you mentioned, the trees, you can just see that how heavy they are, the weight on those tree branches. That is a lot of snow.
It's a ton. And here's the other thing too. And a lot of people don't realize this about Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh as a whole, as far as the large amounts of snow each winter season, they typically don't pick those up from the big snowstorms. Pittsburgh is in a situation where they're in Western PA, almost like Southwest PA. And a lot of their snow comes from clipper systems or lake effect snow. So that's about 60 to, I think it's 70% of their seasonal total. So they average like 38 to 40 or about 41, inches of snow. Easily about 25 to 30 or so inches of that come from lake effect snow. And it also comes from these quick little clippers that come through over and over, because on the west side, they are the Allegheny front. They're on the west side of the Appalachian region, and they get hit with that direct shot of Canadian air and those clippers and all that moisture. Either if it can't go up over the mountains, it's got to go boom. If you're up along that mountain, you're going to get all that snow. So Western PA, West Virginia, again, the lakes. So for a storm of this magnitude to hit Pittsburgh is especially incredible, because they don't get big snowstorms typically like this one that you're seeing here as well.
Yeah, I mean, you hit all the good points here on the head with the source of these storms in that particular area, and we're kind of getting further inland away from that coastal track here. But this is, like I said, I'm amazed with this picture, and the visibility is another really key indicator here how reduced it is. Yeah,
that might be a quarter mile if you're lucky. I don't know. This was actually a viewer photo that was sent into PXI at the time, but regardless, right? The story is there. The other story, we keep talking about the snowpack and the southern track and everything associated with that. Take a look at the U.S. snowpack, the snow depth at that point across the country. Clear as day, January 30th, where the storm track was. It was essentially more of a west to east, coming across Texas and southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, Bama, Georgia, and central South Carolina. So all that cold air and the moisture on the north side of these storms that produced your snowfall. Of course, probably more severe weather, most likely across the far southern parts of the Gulf toward the coast and parts of Florida as well. Look at the mid-Atlantic. You can see the darker blues and purples. But we're going to fast forward just 14 days later, just 2 weeks on the right side there. And you see how much that kind of changed across the heart of the country. Look at the additional snowstorms then going all the way, once again, through southern Oklahoma, parts of northern and eastern Texas, the Arklatex region, deep across Dixie Alley, Georgia, the Carolinas, and look at the dark blue across almost all of the Northeast, the upper mid-Atlantic. You don't need to see all of the exact numbers, all the exact details and the state outlines. You just need to see the lack of dark blue on the left. 2 weeks later, all of that dark blue on the right. And even, Matt, parts of the northern plains there, even look at the left side, parts of Iowa, the Midwest, etc. They don't have a whole lot of deep snowpack, at least not compared to what you have 2 weeks later on the right side of the screen.
Yeah, and we're going to show these totals here momentarily, but I mean that deep blue there and to Western Virginia into Northern Virginia and up through Maryland towards DC, Baltimore area. I mean, that is some pretty significant snowpack right there. February 13th there.
I would love, love, love to have tracked the snow days. If I thought about that as a kid, I have no idea how many days we got off school, but I'm looking at these maps and I'm thinking, man, I missed an opportunity to track how many snow days we
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine. Yeah. That especially the first 2 weeks of February in 2010. Wow. Just big storms one after another.
Cold. And with that cold, it's not going anywhere. It's sticking around.
Right. Yep.
Alrighty. So let's talk about snowfall. Let's talk about numbers. We just looked at maps that have the generic blues and dark blues and purples. Let's break down the numbers, right, with specific amounts. I'm going to read just a few of these off here. Matt, chime in wherever you like. Let's start with the first couple. We're talking about DC. We have 2 airports, Dulles and Reagan, essentially 73 and 56 inches apiece that winter. The previous records were 62 and 54 inches. So again, every number on here, every city broke their snowfall record for their respective location. I really want to hone in on 2 items here. The second on this graph, again, DC, Reagan, 56 inches. The previous record was 54.4. So you're thinking, okay, well, they had a great year. They hit their entire average snow plus another 1.5 inches. So yes, they were above average with that. Look at the year in which the previous record on the right side of the screen had been standing since 1888 to 1898 rather to 1899. So you're talking about 100 years plus for a freestanding or a strong, long-standing record, and you just broke that. In addition to all of these other areas, and some of these areas that don't see a lot of snow, Wichita Falls, Beckley. I mean, 100. Can we just stop and applaud Beckley at 133 inches of snow?
Oh,
they average 100.
That's insane.
That's absurd.
I'm just looking at that Baltimore number as well. That 80.4.
No,
I mean, seriously,
just a doozy. 80, and they only average 62.5. You know, it's amazing.
It is.
The other thing on here, too, there's a number of these old records that fell that year. They were from 95, 96. And 95, 96, again, was another very, very active winter. Mm-hmm. Not the same as what we're looking at going into this year, and not the same, certainly, as the 09-10 winter. But there were similarities. Storm track, cold, and abundance of moisture, timing, a lot of moving pieces. So you kind of start to see when you put analog years together that some of these things start to kind of work their way forward. But then we have the second part of the show. And here comes Elmo. Listen, I had a great time putting this thing together. I put a lot of effort into some of these, as we can clearly see.
I love it. I love this one. Yeah.
I'm getting chills. I'm looking at Elmo. His eyes are frozen over. They look like little pancakes or eggs that are not cooked.
Yes.
I'm getting cold. So the other half of this, to wrap things up for this episode, is the cold in itself. We've talked all night long about the snow, the impacts, the wide geographic ranges, but the cold itself is another big, big deal. And from October of 2009, so going in through the middle of the fall season, right through all of winter, and then March of 2010, the statewide ranks across the country. This tells you how warm or how cold that winter season was. So, for example, Kansas, right there in the middle, has a blue 11. That is the 11th coldest winter on record for the state of Kansas. In comparison to Maine, all the way at the top, 115th warmest. So a pretty warm, and I say warm in air quotes because let's also be honest, it's still northern New England and it's still toward the Canadian border. So it's still very cold. But relatively speaking, for their standards, it was very, very warm that winter. But just the idea, the Central Plains, the Rocky Mountains, the Southern Tier, the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic, a number of these states, Matt, are supposed to be cold. They're supposed to be snowy, but they're still on these maps for top 10s and top 20s of all time at that point. And again, you see where we had the drier air and some of the lack of precip in some of those maps. We went month by month across the Great Lakes region where the high pressure set up. We'll look at the Michigan and the UP, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Those also, again, warmer months, high pressure, sinking air, just warmer temperatures, right? It comes back to that.
Yeah, and again, to point things out for El Nino winters like we had in this particular winter, you expect those states from Texas through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, even Florida, Carolinas, you expect them to be below normal, and that's mainly typically El Nino due to a lot more abundance in clouds and increased rainfall.
Right.
But when you start dropping these numbers, like for example, Mississippi fourth coldest, Alabama fourth coldest, I mean, you're saying something. This is more than just your typical clouds and rain causing this kind of colder air. Right. This is definitely injection of Arctic air from the north when those numbers are that low for the rankings.
Well, also look at Texas. I mean, we're talking Texas, single digit here as far as toward the top of the list. The other thing is think about the size of these states. Yeah. So to make Texas what do we have Texas at? My eyes are so bad anymore. What is that, fifth?
Fifth
I'm looking at the screen. I can't even read my own screen. It's terrible. So you're talking about Texas, right? It's the fifth coldest winter on record. That's a large state, which means you have to average out that entire state where all the numbers are kept. This isn't Rhode Island. We're not talking Connecticut. We're not talking Maryland or a very tiny little state. We're talking about a large, expansive state of Texas. So to average all those numbers out and still bring those numbers down temperature-wise, which means you're toward the top of the chart here as far as record cold, that's also more impressive to me because it can be nothing to do for Connecticut or Rhode Island because they're a small little state. One or two, maybe three little spots, average them up, you're good to go. The weather doesn't change much there. The weather changes a lot in Texas because it's a big, big state.
Yeah, that's a great point. As far as the size of these states and what it would take, you combine cities like Dallas and Houston and some of those bigger cities, San Antonio and Texas, and to get to that point, that's absolutely amazing.
There's a lot of things that happened that winter that some of us hope is a repeat this winter. I'll raise both hands. If I could put my feet in the air, I'd put all four. I'll tell you what, if we can get that back this winter, I will be the happiest child you will ever see. I think we both would be.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes.
There's a lot of people that I think would disagree with that. DOT, of course, is always problematic. Farming community, right? We don't want any harsher weather conditions on the farmers. We've had the late frost and freeze. The drought's been horrendous. Some of the storms we've had this year, it's just been a miserable year. If you're a farmer, if you're in the ag business across the mid-Atlantic, it's been absolutely atrocious. So we don't wish any more harmful weather on those that are trying to produce our food and our fruits and vegetables. But I'd like to see some more snow. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you just can't ever, I guess, be fulfilled.
Right. You can call me Frosty the Snowman. It's not good enough. Keep going.
I will say, though, too, here, an important factor in Florida is the citrus crop.
Yes.
And so this, in fact, I believe we had a stretch this last winter that actually it was the coldest since early 2010. It was, it might have been February, maybe January, one of the 2 months.
I think it was January. I think it was like that middle third of winter. Yep.
Okay. There you go. And so, I mean, think about the prices at the grocery store when you go shopping to get those oranges that are coming from Florida, and that type of thing. I mean, that's really bad for them down there.
I mean, you talk about the variety. First of all, it lowers the variety of fruits available because the citrus fruits, of course, with the cold in the winter and the ice and snow and whatnot, it's dying off. The second part of that is they have to then import the fruit. So you're thinking Hawaii, I guess Mexico. I don't know where all the origins of fruit are, Central America, South America, whatever. But you've got to import that, right, into the U.S. because Florida no longer has the product that we need here at home. So again, weather drives industry, it drives commodity, it drives economics. It's a whole system. Weather is the one and probably the only thing that will impact every part of our day, every single day, to everybody somewhere across the world.
And then just one other thing we forgot to mention, when you get that cold in Florida, we just don't want our iguana friends to fall out of the trees like that and get hurt,
Yes.
So we can't
forget about the iguanas.
that just, they're trying to make it by with these cold waves too down there.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you ever see one, I understand you're supposed to let them be on a serious note. I've not been down there, but my understanding is if you are down there and one of these situations happens come January or early February, and see one laying upside down on the sidewalk or whatever, you're supposed to let them go. Don't know if that's totally true, but that's what I've been told. That's what I've heard. So maybe double check that, but that's what I've been told at the very least as well.
Yeah, and they were definitely ready to flip the calendar to the spring this year, and like thaw out a little bit down there. So
it's it's every season is different. We love fall and winter. I know a lot of people love summer. It's going to be coming to an end really, really soon, guys. It's hard to believe, but the kids are back in school awfully soon in a few weeks. Summer vacations again, like we said at the beginning, they're winding down. Sun angle, Matt, you keep tracking day by day. It's already changing. Sunsets are getting earlier. I mean, things are rolling. And this is already our, 8th episode that we're going through this year. So things are moving quick.
That's 16 weeks right there. I mean, 8 episodes. I'm like, wow. I mean, where is the summer gone? So, yeah, we're looking forward to, what may lie ahead here for the upcoming fall and winter. We absolutely love that time of year here. So we'll have a lot more of these like theme type topics on the podcast in the future as we get closer to those times.
Yep. And we're also going to work on, I also have somebody coming on in just a few weeks as well. A big deal that people often talk about is health, weather and migraines, weather and how does it impact my body without giving too many little details away. And we do have somebody that's going to answer a lot of those questions, and they're going to cover some of the answers as well. So just a little bit of a tease in there for people for a few weeks down the road. But we do have a medical episode in the making coming up here in the next month or month and a half as well. Plus a whole bunch of other stuff. Matt's got some things brewing. I'm not even going to talk about that. We don't want to give it all away.
Yeah.
But we've got some really good stuff coming up, guys. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah. And we really hope you're enjoying this. Some of you may really remember that 09-10 winter and really be able to relate with us. And potentially in the future, maybe we can do a live and answer some of your questions out there, all the listeners specifically. And we can see some of your comments and feedback as well. So, I mean, it was a great episode here. We kind of took a break from the normal nuances of summer. And this is always nice to go back and look at some of these past winters and what happened.
It's always great to reminisce, but it will be here before we know it. So, and the other thing that will be here before we know it will be episode number 9, which is, again, scary. But that's it again for us here for episode 8 on the Weather Confessions podcast. You can connect with us there again on Facebook and X/Twitter. And also in the bottom right, our YouTube channel. Again, if you're watching tonight for the first time or maybe the second and you haven't subscribed, please do so. It is free. There's no charge for you. We just want to have people follow us along with this journey and enjoy it as much as we do. So that is it for Weather Confessions and Spot On Weather LLC. Until the next time with episode 9, guys, have a great one and stay warm out there. I hear there's a blizzard coming.
Oh, there you go. It may not only be a Dairy Queen either. So yeah, everybody take care and thanks for listening and subscribing.